1957, Little Rock, Arkansas. 3 years after the Supreme Court's ruling on Brown versus the Board of Education, the Arkansas governor refused to integrate schools. So the federal government had to step in and protect black students so they may safely attend. This was an extreme case, for most schools around the country had already started integrating, years before the ruling. From the colonias of southern New Mexico, a 1957 high school graduate shares her experience of integration.
Now, you're probably wondering why I'm sitting on the steps, but there is a very particular reason. Because this was about as far as they would let us go back in the day. And our superintendent at the time was Mr. Rex Bell. And he says, I have no objections, but if some of your parents from Vado would come down and talk to us, and we'll just, get some feedback and make sure that, you wouldn't have any problems when you come down here to go to school. A lot of the Boyers, the Fullers, the Moultrie families, we had a lot of families, but the main thing was they were united. They did not have one person down here speaking for the children. And Mr. Rex Bell said, okay, as long as you show some unity and you come down here and you show us that you are interested and that you do want your kids to be here, I will listen. And this is how it came about, that we, came to school here. And of course, arrangements were made, like I said earlier, where we had a bus, our own bus. And see, therefore, we didn't have any chance for anybody to be fighting because you're black and I'm white and you're yellow, pink, whatever color you are. We had our own bus. And so we came to, we did come to school here. And there were a few incidents. But like I said, we didn't have anything major like you see in the news, people fighting and kids. Of course, we got, I had a brother. And you better not act like you were going to say the N word. I'm very sorry, people, to tell you, because if you act like you were going to say the N word, you were going to end up on the ground. And I'm just telling you how the history was back then. When they decided to integrate the schools, and they said, okay, we have this school full of little black kids. What we're going to do is we're going to test them and see if they equal coming to be integrated. Well, I want you to know, we had one of the best principals around, and her name was Miss Jill Bundy Grimes. And she said, sure, go ahead, test my kids if you want to. And I want you to know that when the test came back, the children in that black school, they tested higher than anybody in the district. And that shows you that she was not over there playing on her job. She wanted her kids to go somewhere and, and do things. in their lives. Basically, we know Martin Luther King. We know Booker T. Washington. We know a couple of more people. Just that, like for instance, the school that I went to, he was Paul Laurence Dunbar. Nobody didn't know anything about Paul Laurence Dunbar, but he was a great black person also. And now the kids, that's the only thing about the integrated school. The kids have lost all of the history about some of the famous black people. But I have noticed that in the latter years that they try to bring up some of it, you know, on television now. And they get a little of it. But during that period of time, no, they didn't tell us anything unless you were at a, you know, predominantly black school. Mm-hmm. It can help the kids to show them that, hey, I don't have to be, you know, black and proud. I can do something to show my pride. And this is how, if you know a little more about the black history and how many great black historians there are and great people who did, black people who did things, then you could, you know, have a better attitude and everything would be a whole lot better. They should teach about everybody as well as, you know, George Washington or somebody like that. And of course, I'm going to tell you by me being black, I'm going to tell you incidents that happened to some of our football teams. One time, the coach, his name was Deterrio. They were in Deming, New Mexico. He was unloading all of his players to go into this restaurant. I don't remember the name of the restaurant. And they met them at the door. And he told them, okay, all of you other guys can go in there, but the black boys can't eat with you. He said, guys, get in the bus, let's go. He did not, that's why I'm saying, you know, there were people in those days that knew that this wasn't right. And so they would get in the bus. He said, as soon as we can get to another place, and I'll go and talk, and all of you can eat as a team, because I had two brothers who were in sports, and then we will let you in. So even though my time was back when the schools were starting to integrate, we still had some, you know, incidents that would come up sometime. But we had a beautiful coaching staffs that they were nice enough where they didn't let anything like that go on. Mm-hmm. Passing through here sometime with my dad. He loved to ride up and down the valley, and of course I knew the school was here, but I thought that I would end up going to the school in Las Cruces, New Mexico, just as my brothers did. But when the schools were opened up for everybody, well, yeah, that's how I ended up down here my freshman year at the Gadsden Junior High School. Mm-hmm. This was our gymnasium where we did PE in here. We had our dances after the games in here. And we even had because we weren't fancy in those days, we did our homecoming dances here, and everything was all decorated. We did our prom dances because they decorated it beautifully for our proms. So this is what we did. And then early in the morning when if we'd arrive early enough and it wasn't time for us to go to class, we would come in here, and you know what song I would hear? Up in the morning and out to school, Chuck Berry. Every morning it seemed like they chose that one to put it on. And we would listen to the music back in those days until, you know, the bell would ring and we'd go to class. But a few of the kids, like for instance, I'll give you for instance, like I can't remember the teacher's name who was in charge of the course, the musical department at the time. He didn't care too much for having, you know, the black kids to do. Not that they could sing, but he didn't care too much about giving them solo parts and things like that. But that didn't last very long. Apparently, somebody must have schooled him and told him, okay, they're here now, and we're going to treat them just like everybody else. And so we had some beautiful kids, because I grew up with these kids. They had beautiful voices, and that's about the most common thing. And of course, the black boys, you know how they were always into sports and everything, but there was no problem for them joining all the different various sports around the school. I can't really tell you about any drastic experiences I had, but I did have some small encounters. So I thought it was kind of rough for some of the kids. And why did this have to happen? We're people and human beings just like everybody else. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was no organized sports for girls. Only sports that we had were in PE, and of course PE were they were requirements.
Miss Bobbie, what would you have played if there was girls' sports here?
Oh, I loved basketball. I loved baseball and track. I loved to run track. Mm-hmm.
I ran track on this track when I was here at Gadsden, and I started the first girls' soccer team. There wasn't a girls' soccer team, there was boys. But we started our girls' soccer team here 40 years later, so things are getting better little by little.
Yes, they are. Something for the girls now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I saw pictures of you as the homecoming princess. Tell me about what that was like being on this field.
Well, of course, the field is a little different, but to me, it was an honor to be chosen as, and if I might interject, as being, one of the few black students. We didn't have a ton of them, but being a black student and chosen as a senior homecoming princess.
What did that mean to your family?
My dad, because we were very close. He thought that was the most beautiful thing in the world.
And what did you wear?
And I wore a black tweed suit, and we had to wear suits, and we had to have on some high heels. And I always like to interject my little funniness, and that was the first time in my life. Now here I am, a senior in high school, that I had ever put on any heels. So we found the lowest ones that we could find, so that I wouldn't fall or nothing would happen, and everything came out just fine.
That's a beautiful story.
Okay.